There is someone in your life who knows exactly how to hurt you. Not your enemies. Not the people who have openly opposed you, criticized you, made their dislike of you visible and therefore manageable. Someone closer than that. Someone whose opinion you were taught to value before you were old enough to decide whether it deserved that value. Someone whose words carry a weight that a stranger's words simply cannot carry, no matter how harsh they are. Your family. And here is what Machiavelli understood about that. Something that will sound harsh until you sit with it long enough to recognize it as the most protective thing anyone has ever told you. The people who love you are not always the people who are safe to tell everything to. That is not a cynical statement. It is not an argument against family or love or closeness. It is a precise operational observation about how information moves between people, what happens to your power when the wrong information reaches the wrong ears, even in the context of genuine love, and why the most strategically dangerous leaks in your life are almost never coming from your enemies. They are coming from the dinner table. Machiavelli spent his career watching powerful people be undone. And one pattern appeared so consistently that he returned to it in different forms across everything he wrote. The people who destroyed capable men were rarely their declared opponents. They were almost always the people those men had trusted completely, the people they had told everything to, the people they believed were safe because the relationship predated strategy, predated ambition, predated any version of themselves that had something worth protecting. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you 7 specific things you should never tell your family, not because your family doesn't love you, but because love and safety are not the same thing, and confusing them has cost more people more than they ever recovered from. Drop this in the comments right now. I protect my power. Let's begin. Number 1. Never tell your family how much money you actually have. Machiavelli observed something about financial disclosure that cuts against every instinct toward transparency in close relationships. The moment people know the exact shape of your financial reality, they stop responding to you and start responding to the number. Think about that carefully, because it doesn't require malice to be true. It doesn't require your family to be greedy or manipulative or consciously calculating. It requires nothing more than human nature doing what human nature reliably does. When someone knows you have significantly more than they thought, the dynamic shifts in ways neither of you will fully acknowledge. Requests that were previously self-contained now come with an unspoken addendum. Their own financial decisions get made differently with yours as a reference point. The discomfort of disparity enters the relationship quietly and changes the atmosphere of every subsequent interaction. And when someone knows you have significantly less than they assumed, a different but equally costly shift occurs. Their perception of your credibility changes. Their confidence in your decisions changes. Advice you give carries less weight. Ambitions you express get met with a particular kind of gentle discouragement that is delivered with love and lands like concrete. Machiavelli was precise about this. He wrote that a man's resources should be known by what they produce, not by what he declares. Let your outcomes speak. Let your capability be visible through what you build. But the specific numbers, the actual financial architecture of your life, keep that close. Not as deception. As protection of the one area where other people's knowledge of your position has no benefit to you and multiple potential costs. Number 2. Never tell your family about your relationship problems. Here's what nobody tells you about venting to family about your partner. You will forgive your partner. Your family will not. You are inside the relationship. You have the full context. You know the history, the complexity, the 1,000 things that happened before the one thing you're describing right now. You will have conversations, reconciliations, resolutions that restore your understanding of who this person is to you. And then you will move forward with an updated picture. Your family has one data point, the one you gave them in the moment of maximum pain and minimum context. And human memory, particularly memory organized around protecting someone you love from being hurt, does not update the way yours does. The story you told them in anger becomes the story they hold permanently, even if you never mention it again. even if you present evidence of change every time they see you together. The original impression sits underneath everything and colors every subsequent interaction with your partner without anyone acknowledging that it's there. Machiavelli understood the compounding nature of disclosed information. Every piece of information you share creates a frame, and once a frame exists, every new piece of information gets interpreted through it rather than on its own terms. You give your family a negative frame for your partner and then wonder why every subsequent positive thing you share about them gets received with a specific reservation you can feel but cannot name. You built that reservation, one vulnerable conversation at a time. Your relationship problems belong inside the relationship. Address them there, and if you need external support, find someone who has no emotional stake in the outcome, someone who can hear both sides without the automatic loyalty that makes your family's sympathy feel good in the moment and costly for years afterward. Number 3. Never tell your family your plans before they exist. This one will cost you more than any other if you get it wrong. And most people get it wrong because announcing plans to family feels like building accountability, like creating the social commitment that will keep you moving when motivation fades. What it actually does is something far more destructive. It gives everyone who is not going where you are going an opportunity to weigh in on whether you should go there, before you have moved, before you have built momentum, before you have accumulated the evidence of early progress that would give you something to point to when the doubt arrives. Machiavelli called premature disclosure of plans one of the most reliable ways to kill them. Not because the people you tell are enemies of your ambition, because even the most well-intentioned response to an unbuilt plan is received by your nervous system as evaluation. And evaluation before momentum is doubt, even when it's framed as love. Your family loves you, which means they are invested in protecting you from failure, which means their response to your plans will be filtered through every fear they have about what failure would do to you. They will raise objections that come from care. They will suggest caution that comes from watching you be hurt before. They will introduce uncertainty that is entirely motivated by wanting good things for you. And it will get in. Not because they're wrong, because you haven't built enough yet to have an immune response to doubt. The plan is still fragile. It lives only in your head and your hope. And the caring skepticism of people whose opinion matters to you is exactly what a fragile plan cannot survive. Execute first. Announce after. Let the results be the introduction. Machiavelli would have said it simply. Never let anyone vote on your direction before you have already begun moving in it. The vote is always premature, and premature votes, however lovingly cast, have killed more meaningful work than opposition ever has. Number 4. Never tell your family about your fears and insecurities. This is the one that feels most wrong to withhold. Because family is supposed to be the place where you can be fully known, where the performance comes down, where you don't have to pretend, and in the best families, in relationships of genuine depth and safety, some version of that is true. But Machiavelli's observation was not about what family is supposed to be. It was about what human psychology reliably does with vulnerability once it has been witnessed. When you show someone your fear, you change their perception of you in ways that are almost impossible to reverse. Not because they stop loving you, but because the mind that has seen your fear cannot unsee it. It becomes a data point in how they understand you. And data points, once created, influence every subsequent interaction whether the person is consciously aware of it or not. The family member who watched you break down about your career insecurities will hear your future career announcements. Through that memory, the one who held you while you described your deepest relational fears will observe your relationship with those fears still active in their understanding of you. The one who knows where your confidence is thinnest will, in moments of disagreement, reach for that knowledge the way people reach for whatever tool is closest when they need leverage. Not necessarily consciously, not necessarily maliciously, but reliably. Machiavelli was not arguing for isolation or emotional suppression. He was arguing for selectivity, for the discipline to know the difference between the rare person who has genuinely earned access to your interior and the broader category of people who love you but will, through entirely natural psychological processes, use what they know about your weakness in ways neither of you will fully acknowledge. Fear shared with the wrong person does not become smaller. it becomes available. Number 5. Never tell your family who your real enemies are. When someone has wronged you, the instinct to tell people who love you about it is almost overwhelming. You want witnesses. You want validation. You want the support of people who are unequivocally on your side, and your family will be on your side. Loudly, immediately. Sometimes more loudly and immediately than the situation requires. Machiavelli identified this as a specific problem that intelligent people create for themselves by disclosing their conflicts to people whose loyalty precedes their judgment. When you tell your family about an enemy, you transfer the conflict. The enemy is now your family's enemy, and your family will handle this enemy with their own emotional intelligence, their own subtlety, their own capacity for strategic restraint, which may be significantly less developed than yours. The person who wronged you in a professional context now has your cousin making comments at social events. The colleague who undermined you at work now has your parents asking pointed questions through mutual connections. The enemy you needed to manage carefully and quietly is now being managed loudly and visibly by people who love you too much to be strategic about it, and every move they make gets traced back to you. Your conflict, which you might have navigated to a quiet resolution, is now public. The person you needed to outmaneuver in private is now fighting you in the open where they are comfortable and you are exposed. Handle your enemies yourself. With the precision that close knowledge of the situation allows. And let your family's love be protected from becoming a weapon that fires in the wrong direction at the wrong moment. Number 6. Never tell your family about your most important ambitions, different from sharing plans. This goes deeper. Your plans are the what. Your ambitions are the why, the vision, the size of what you are actually reaching for when nobody is measuring. And Machiavelli understood something about the relationship between the size of your ambition and the people who love you that is painful but completely true. Most people are not equipped to hold someone else's large ambition without it activating something in them. Not envy necessarily. Sometimes something softer and more complicated. A specific discomfort with the distance that large ambition creates. A fear of what happens to the relationship if you actually become what you are reaching toward. A protective instinct that expresses itself as doubt. Your family knew you before the ambition. They have a version of you that was smaller, more uncertain, more like them. And that version is the one their love was built around. The version that is reaching for something large and unfamiliar is harder to love in the uncomplicated way. It requires them to update, to expand their picture of you, to hold in mind simultaneously the person they know and the person you are becoming. That update is not automatic. And in the gap between the old picture and the new one, family will often unconsciously try to draw you back to the version they understand. Not because they want you to fail, because they want you to remain theirs. Guard the full size of what you are reaching for. Let them see the results as you build them. But the complete architecture of your ambition, the real ceiling you're aiming for, that belongs to you until you have built enough of it that the argument for its possibility makes itself. Number 7. Never tell your family when you have already made your decision. This is the final principle, and in some ways the most practically important. When you have already decided something, genuinely decided it at the level where the direction is set, and the question is only execution, do not present it to your family as a decision in progress. Machiavelli observed that people who announce made decisions as open questions are not seeking input. They are seeking permission, and seeking permission from people whose approval you were trained to need is one of the most reliable ways to find yourself living a life designed around their comfort rather than your direction. Your family will give you their opinion. That is what families do. And their opinion will be shaped by their fears, their values, their own unlived choices, their investment in a version of you that fits within a future they can picture and approve of. If the decision is genuinely open, consult them. Use the input. Let their knowledge of you inform the deliberation. But if the decision is made, if you are telling them not to get input but to manage the announcement, then present it as what it is. A decision, not a question. not a proposal awaiting endorsement. A direction already chosen that you are informing them of because you value the relationship, not because you require their agreement to move. Machiavelli called this the discipline of the decided man, the one who has separated the internal process of deciding from the external process of announcing, who deliberates in private and presents in public from a position of completion rather than uncertainty. Because here is what asking permission communicates to every person you ask it from: that their answer has the power to stop you. And once you communicate that, you have handed the authority over your own life to whoever is willing to say no loudly enough. None of this is about loving your family less. Machiavelli never argued against love. He argued against the confusion of love with safety, against the assumption that closeness automatically creates the conditions for complete transparency, against the costly and common mistake of treating the people whose opinions carry the most emotional weight as the people most qualified to receive your most vulnerable information. Your family loves you. That love is real and it matters. But love does not neutralize human nature. It does not remove the psychology of comparison, of fear, of the unconscious reach for leverage in moments of conflict. It does not guarantee that what you share will be held with the precision and the strategic sensitivity that the information requires. What Machiavelli was pointing at, across everything he wrote about trust and disclosure, and the management of what others know about you, was a single principle that applies nowhere more powerfully than in the relationships closest to us. Information is not neutral. Every piece of it that leaves your possession changes the landscape of your life in ways you cannot fully predict and often cannot reverse. Guard it, not as suspicion, not as the withholding of someone who doesn't trust the people around them, as the discipline of someone who understands that the most powerful version of themselves is built in the space between what they know and what they reveal. That space is yours. Protect it like Machiavelli would. Completely, quietly, and without apology. Drop this in the comments right now. I protect my inner world. Share this with someone who has paid the price for telling the wrong person the right information. They will know exactly what this means, and if something in this landed in a place you weren't expecting, if a specific point brought a specific memory of a specific moment where this cost you something, then you already know which of these 7 matters most to you. Start there.